We've now entered the second half of the 4.x versions, and just like clockwork, Genshin is dying. So today we're going to talk about whether or not slow patches are good for the game, analyze some sales numbers, and I'll give you what I think is a pretty unique take. Let's talk about it. First, I want to do a little bit of history. The later patches of Genshin have always, since the beginning of time, signaled that Genshin is dying. Because if you think about it like this, we have the Archon quests, the main ones for 0.0, 0.1, and with Sumeru and Fontaine with 0.2 as well. Which, by the way, is way better than when the Archon quests were just 0.0 and 0.1, because they not only did the content not last as long, but they felt a lot more rushed. So the 3 patch is really, really good for the Archon quest. And then 4.4, what 0.4 always has Lantern Rite, and Lantern Rite is always pretty hype with this year a new area, sometimes there's a new story. And basically after Lantern Rite is when things slow down with some ups and downs depending on what happens. Usually 4.5 is going to be a down, or 0.5 is going to be a down, then 0.6 will go up, 0.7 will go down, 0.8, and 0.8 you're just looking forward to the next region. And that's always how it's been. It was that way for Sumeru. It was that way for Inazuma. It's just always how it's been. And so when we get these pretty aptly named dry patches, there usually comes about this take that people actually like dry patches. And this take is a pretty hotly debated topic. With this person says, the live stream just dropped, we're going to get complaints again, so dry, nothing to do, Genshin is dead. I love these dry patches, they allow me to catch up on my backlog. We've had really busy months, I've been stuck on Act 3 since autumn, excited to play Novelet and Yoimiya Act 2, really looking forward to the time until the big summer update drops. And basically, at least on Twitter, there were a lot of responses to this being like, if you like it when your game has no content, it's just copium. You know, we're complimenting the devs for not making content. This is a new level of mental gymnastics to give praise to Genshin Impact no matter what. And I can definitely see what they're saying, but I think we have to be careful with our definitions here. This person isn't saying that dry patches are objectively good, or even they're not even necessarily saying that they would prefer dry patches to other patches. They are expressing a positive that they feel out of something that most people feel is negative. And they're expressing their enjoyment. And as long as this enjoyment is genuine, I don't think that there is a problem with this. Now, I think if this person said that it's objectively better for the players to have dry patches so that they can get caught up on other things, I think that then you could really, I think that those other responses would have a lot more weight to them. But I kind of have a different opinion, because to me, I don't really think of these sort of things in terms of what I would prefer or what's better for the players. And this is going to sound really cynical, but to me, everything that Genshin does is at the end of the day a business decision. And the only way for me to judge whether Genshin is right or wrong for doing these types of business decisions is whether or not that it's ultimately successful for them, because that's ultimately their only goal. I can't hold Genshin to a goal that they're not actually trying to achieve. Of course, I do think that making the players happy will ultimately make them more profitable, as long as, you know, within a certain parameter. They're not gonna, it would make people happy to give away every 5-star, but that's not going to be profitable. It would make people happy to release all the regions at once, but that's not going to be profitable. So to me, whether or not the slow patches are good or bad for players really isn't of a concern, like isn't really worth talking about to me, because to me it's like, obviously it would be better if we just had banger story after banger story. What I would love personally is every single patch has at least an Archon quest interlude or something of that quality, like something like the Zhao Yalan quest, story quest. But the reality is, I don't know what's going on internally for Hoyoverse. I don't know how inspired they have to be. I think that they could, though. I think that there's absolutely just so many characters and so many stories to be told within Genshin that I think there could easily be an Archon quest interlude quality story every single patch. Now, there's 2 reasons why I think that Genshin doesn't do this. The 2 reasons that explain it to me. Number 1 is that they would prefer if they have this extra resources on top, like say that they release is on average a main story 2 out of 3 patches. I think that that's on average what it ends up being. And instead of doing one every single patch, they put some of that resources to something like Star Rail. And then they'll get the people, like, it's my opinion, when there's slow patches on Genshin, like Genshin has their cracked team of writers. Like you might have infinite money, but you don't necessarily have infinite creativity, especially cohesive creativity that makes that keeps the world all together. Small teams are better for this sort of thing than large teams for writing, for creativity, for writing a cohesive, good story. When the team gets too large, the story becomes too fragmented. So you can't just have a bajillion writers. So I think that Genshin sends their best writers to Star Rail to write their big patches and to Genshin to write their big patches. And I think they allocate their resources this way because they're going to make more money making a whole new game than by making top tier content every single patch. On top of that, I think that the way the human psychology works is if you have too much of a good thing, you don't enjoy it the same way. When you're hungry and you eat a burger, it is a completely different experience to if you're already full and you try and eat a burger. Like if you are mad hungry and you haven't eaten all day and it's 5 p.m. and you pull up to McDonald's, that Big Mac tastes the best burger you have ever had. But if you've already eaten at the sushi restaurant across the street and you're full and now you go and try and eat a Big Mac, that is trash. And even if we just talk about Big Macs, if you buy 4 Big Macs because you're so hungry, after you have the third, the fourth is not feeling very good. You know, another way to put it, absence makes the heart grow fonder and all that. It's actually human psychology and economics. It's called diminishing marginal value or diminishing marginal utility. It's the more you have of something, even if the thing is good, the less you will enjoy it. So marginal utility is the amount you will enjoy it, and the more you have of it, the less you'll enjoy it. It's just a basic human concept. And so the reason why Genshin works in these slow patches, in my opinion, is because it makes you, when it comes back, you enjoy the next one that much more. Now, I'm not justifying this and saying that this is good for the players, because ideally they would keep releasing banger content after banger content and you would take your own breaks, right? They would always have banger content for you to play, and if you wanted to take a break, you could, and you could come back and have your own break, and you'd come back and there'd be even more content. Instead, you come back and there's not as much content. So that is really what would be ideal for the players, in my opinion. But I think between these two factors, the fact that if they have slow patches, people will enjoy the hype patches more, and they can put the resources towards another game, it just makes way too much sense. And I think that is why Genshin does this, and that is exactly why Genshin has dry patches. So that's number one. And then the next part is I want to talk about the revenue and the overall game popularity and whether Genshin is dying. Because I've given my take on the slow patches, I do want to give my take on whether Genshin Impact is dying. Because when slow patches comes up, this always happens. So obviously, if we look at the revenue, Genshin Impact got knocked out of top spot and Star Rail overtook it. And by a lot. Star Rail is at almost at 100 million revenue. This was the Acheron banner. It's crazy how many people E6'd their Acheron, how many people wish for Acheron. It is Raiden Shogun all over again. Very smart by Hoyoverse. They just did the exact same thing that they know works. I know I spent some money on the Acheron banner, and they made a really bait E2, just like they did a C2 for Raiden Shogun. Very, very smart, and nothing can compete with that. And meanwhile, in Genshin, they released Chiori, which was, because you gotta remember that Hoyoverse is a business overall. They don't look at Genshin and Star Rail independently. They could have made Chiori a lot stronger and made her hype a lot bigger, but in my opinion, they artificially held back on Chiori. And I don't think that they made her bad. Like, I think they made her pretty good, but she is relatively undertuned compared to all of the Fontaine characters, which have been very, 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 very powerful. Just objectively, the floor has been raised in Fontaine. Maybe I'll make a video on power creep in Genshin, because I think power creep is actually here. But regardless, Chiori is not part of the creep. Like, technically, she did really power creep. She's just better albedo. And I do think Chiori is good, don't get me wrong. But they specifically did not bring the hype for Chiori. Like, they did not really, really, really push this character because they want people to go play Star Rail for the hype chapter. Like, this is slow patch for Genshin, hype patch for Star Rail. That's just how it goes. So this does not surprise me at all. It shouldn't surprise you. This is exactly what was to be expected. and Genshin Impact is still making an absolute truckload of money. They're still doing very well. But is Genshin Impact overall dying? And then we'll bring in the Google Trends. So Genshin Impact currently right now is at a very predictable dip. It's very predictable. We had 1.0 and then it went way down to, if I'm being honest, basically the same place as it is right now. And then we had 2.0 and then it went down. We had 3.0 and went down. Actually, I don't even know where the 4.0 are. Where are we? This is 1.0. 2.0 is probably here. Nope, right here. 2.0 is here. And then 3.0, 4.0. Something like that. But it's a very predictable dip. And we can see that for 4.0, you know, it's been a bit lower than other ones. But honestly, the game's looking still pretty darn healthy. Like, this is just a very expected ebb and flow. And like I said, they do this on purpose. I think to say Genshin is dying, obviously you can't base everything on Google Trends, right? But I think that it's one of the more objective ways to actually measure the interest in Genshin Impact. And I think that it's doing very, very well, considering the game has been out for a long time and is definitely on a dip right now. And that's to be expected because it's going to go up when we go into Fontaine or into Natlan. And especially if they kind of shake things up, because they've been riding the formula for like since Sumeru, because Sumeru added the new element, and then they've been kind of riding the formula since then. I think they have an opportunity to shake things up, and it'll be interesting to see if they do anything like that, whether they do something crazy. Like, do they add mounts? Do they add a new endgame mode? Do they do things that really shake up what people expect? So if we look at, now I want to compare. So if we look at Honkai Star Rail, let's make some comparisons, because we've been looking at just Genshin. Let's compare it to other games. So Honkai Star Rail started off extremely popular, went down very hard, always expected for a new game, but as you can see, it started off nowhere near the popularity that Genshin had, and then went way below and then back up, and now even at the peak of Star Rail's recent peak, it never passed Genshin's low. So Genshin's just a bigger game than Star Rail. It makes sense. It's more unique. I'm kind of interested in YouTube search. About the same. And what if we compare it to something else, like Fortnite, like something, the most popular thing ever? Fortnite, wow, about as popular as Genshin for a lot of Genshin's life. Like, started off way more popular, like way more, and then as popular, then like went below and then above, and on average a bit more popular. Than in recent years it's been a bit less, and then recently had a big resurgence. Obviously something big happened in Fortnite. I have no idea what it is. I don't keep up with Fortnite. League of Legends, let's take a look at League. So League is the green one. So on average less popular than Genshin. I mean, it makes sense. League has been out for a very long time, but I just wanted to compare. What else is big? Biggest video games of all time? I don't know. Let's look at Zelda, the game series. So purple, I mean, Zelda gets really hype when there's a new game, like a big new game, and then is way down when there isn't, but it's always pretty steady around where Star Rail is. I'm interested in Pokemon, very, very popular. Holy smoke. And then Scarlet and Violet was Scarlet and Violet was massive. Holy smoke. That's crazy. And it still remains very, very, very big. Wow. What else is big? Call of Duty, on average a lot less popular than Genshin. Interesting. Oh, Minecraft. How is Minecraft doing these days? Minecraft is the purple one, consistently very, very popular. And so anyways, all this to say, Genshin still doing well, going through slow patches on it, and the slow patches are honestly by design. I think to say that Genshin is dying is just wrong. Like, sure, you know, it's on the low side, but it's not even like the lowest it's ever been. Like, it looks to me like somewhere in Inazuma is the lowest that Genshin has ever been. 36. Oh, 34. Maybe not. So maybe it is technically at the low. Oh, we had 35. This looks lower to me. I just can't get to it. I don't know. Maybe it's like 30. Oh, 32. It's still not the lowest Genshin has ever been. The lowest Genshin has ever been was right after Genshin came out, and then people came back, and it just ebbs and flows, guys, right? The peaks for Fontaine weren't quite as high as the peaks we've had before. So you could say that it's gone down slightly. You could say that Genshin is on a very slow decline, and that's just how games work. Games don't stay popular forever. It's been out for 4 years, and I think that Genshin, again, I think that they've been very safe with what they've done. I think they could easily shoot back up in popularity if they did something crazy, and only time will tell whether they'll actually do something crazy. But I definitely, you know, I think Genshin's in a very, very healthy state right now. Like, most of Fontaine is still more popular than most of 1.0. So I don't know. I still think it's plenty big. Let me know what you think. Take care. Bye for now.